Over the last 6 years, I've built 3 teams from scratch in 7 and 8 figure companies. 1 in King Kong, 1 in Founder, and 1 now in my agency Persuasion experience. I've interviewed hundreds of people, onboarded and trained and retained dozens of different people. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 power-ups to help to create killer A-player teams. These are 3 things that you can implement today to get more out of your team and to help unlock their true potential. So great teams have great leaders, and your employees or your team members, they're not a cost, they're an investment. They're an asset that you can build and create. You can do bad investments that you need to clip, but you shouldn't think of them as a cost. You should be wondering, how can you make them perform even better? And your job as a leader is to figure that out. How can you make your people perform the best and step into being their best self? So while I've been building teams, there's been 3 really good power-ups that I've found have helped to fast track people to get the results I want and to help them to do their jobs easier and perform better. The first one is a tactic or a framework that we called clear the room. The problem is when you're building teams or you're working with people, even if you're working in a team, I'm sure you've experienced this. People start these tasks and these projects, and then they have all of these tasks open. One's 10% done, one's 30% done, one's 90% done, one never started, and they just never finished them. So you can imagine that compounding over a year, these projects never getting finished, what sort of effect that's gonna have on your business. You're not gonna move anywhere. So with me and my team, your work can be in one of 3 categories: to do, doing, or done. Guess which one I care about? Done. Because what I find is if you don't set that expectation, people are always like,
oh, I had this idea, I started this, I'm exploring this, I'm researching this.
Awesome, important parts of the journey to get something to done, but what have you actually cleared the room on? What has actually been completed? So what we teach our team is to literally, we call it clear the room. And now we hear our team saying, yeah, I'm gonna get onto that, but I wanna clear the room on this first. I wanna get this done. Now, clearing the room isn't about ticking a box and just shipping it for the sake of getting it shipped. When we have our system in our business, it goes research, strategy, execution, and then things move into our growth flywheel, which is you ship, you analyze and learn, you adjust, and then you keep going. So you have the initial setup of something, research, strategy, execution, and then the growth flywheel to keep improving it. So similar to if you were playing a first-person shooter game or something, you would go into a room, you would clear all the zombies, or you would clear all the problems before you move into the next one. So that's where the clear the room comes from. And I feel like it's a concept that people can easily grasp onto. And it's like, no, I've got to finish this task. I've got to close this ticket. I've got to close this thing, close this loop before I can take on more tasks. So if you want to start using this today, literally just introduce the concept to your team and say, hey, I've noticed that we're starting a lot, but not finishing a lot. How can I help you? What do you think's the blocker? Sometimes you're pushing too much work onto them and they're trying to please you. They're starting all this stuff, but they don't have a framework for thinking. So this will help you. And then as a bonus tip in terms of managing up, I teach my team how to say no to me and my co-founder, Matt, because I live in a different universe where I'm working like 14-hour days. So I have 3 days in one, and sometimes I have really unrealistic expectations about time and what should be done. So this is how I've taught them to say no to me, which is, yes, Alicia, I can do that, but I'll have to deprioritize something else. Would you like me to knock back this, or would you like me to start this task next week? I need to clear the room on these things first. And then I say, thank you for your communication. Now I have my expectations managed. Yes, you can deprioritize that. I need this done ASAP. This is urgent and important. Okay, so that's clearing the room with a little bonus tip on how to teach your team to say no to you and to manage up. Trust me, teaching your team to manage up is one of the greatest things you can do. So power up number 2 is the RACI framework. And I learned this while I was working Founder. It absolutely changed the game for our projects and our launches. So here's the problem it solved. We were kind of having this in Founder, but I really see this in the big companies that we work with that are no longer a lean team, typically have a lot of bloat in the team members they've brought on board. So here's the problem. When everybody gets a say, nobody's accountable, and so nothing ever happens. You have a project or a task, but but you don't set a clear owner. So you might hear things like, oh, I thought Jenny was gonna do that. Or things like, I'm waiting to hear back from Robert and he's waiting to hear back from Jason, but Jason can't get back to Robert until Amanda gets back to him. Yeah, I don't know if that's happening in your business, but that's not the kind of shit I want going down in my business. So we set RACI, responsible, accountable, consultant, informed. Let's go through it. Basically, RACI gives a really clear guideline about who is involved. And the thing that I love about it is that it has one person accountable. So that's the A. So when we're looking at it, I'll share it up on my screen now. We have responsible, the person who actually carries out the process or task or assignment. That's the person doing the work. It might not be the person who's in charge, and they're responsible to get the job done. So in a web project, let's say a website, something that we're all familiar with, someone who's responsible might be the designer or the copywriter or the builder. Cool. They're responsible to actually do the work, do the thing. Then when it comes to accountable, this is, for lack of a better term, the one throat to choke. So this is the person who is ultimately accountable for process or task being completed appropriately. These people, it is on them to make sure it gets this done. They might not do any of the thing, but it's their job to make sure the room is cleared on this task. So it might be your project manager is accountable, or you might have a copywriter who needs to do something, or it might be your EA or your VA. It doesn't matter, but when you set that accountability, stuff starts to get done. I think of that social experiment where they did that thing and they went and fell over in traffic, and then they were yelling out like, someone please help me, come and please help me, versus when they were like, you come here, help me, I've fallen down, and then that person would come and help, whereas nobody helped when you asked for everybody. So when you give somebody that ownership, it'll surprise you. People will actually get it done. So the next two, we have consulted. So people who are not directly involved with carrying out the task, but who are consulted. So as an example, my team might be doing something in the tech realm and they know that I should not really have a say or do what I need to do, but I might need to be consulted because the automation is going to affect me, or I might know something that is going to plug into that project to help them. So they would consult with me and come and get my ideas, but I'm not accountable and I'm not doing any of the work. I'm just somebody with the reference experience they can get help from. And the fourth one is informed. So this is just basically, as it sounds, the person who needs to know more about it or what's happening. They don't do it, they're not accountable, they might not be pulled into the project to be consulted, but they need to know what's going on because this task, this project affects their work. So if you want to start implementing this, this is how you do it. Literally, whenever you set a new task or a new project, the new part of your briefing is now you include the RACI. Yes, it will take your time, it'll take your team some time to pick up and start using this. But once they do, hopefully you can see that when you pair this and clearing the room, how much smoother and how much faster the ship is going to move by having some of these power-ups in place. Now, two things to note. Number one, not everyone deserves to have a say or should be involved. So you don't have to have your whole team involved on everything that's going to slow you down. Have the key people that need to be involved. Everybody else just adds noise and slows down what's going to happen. And number two is that if you make somebody accountable, you need to make sure that they have the information and the decision-making power to actually be the one accountable. So you need to let them know, hey, this is the information, this is the picture of success, this is what I want you to build towards, and you have the right to make decisions about this, but you need to check in with me about this. So you need to tell them the parameters of how they can take control and ownership of this task. And number three, which is one that I only learned a few weeks ago, and I learned it in one of Ryan Dice's masterminds, the M3 program. So the problem that we're going to solve with the 131, and I'm going to tell you what that is in a moment, is that people are often not clear about what problem they're solving. So whether they'll come to you as the manager, the leader, the owner, or they'll go to each other or even a client, and then they'll spew out 30 minutes of context that is useless, unrelated, confusing, unnecessary, and it's all trying to help you, but it's just like, it's all this noise, and it kind of leaves you trying to untangle and to figure out, yeah, okay, but what problem are we really trying to solve here? Like, what are we trying to do here? So here's how the 131 works. There's one challenge, opportunity, or problem. That's what they're going to come to you with in one clear, succinct sentence without all of the fluffy context. They literally have to get it down into one sentence. And then there's the three. So they bring three different solutions to achieve or overcome that problem or opportunity. And then there's the one. They recommend one. Hey, my problem is blah. These are the 3 ways that I think we can solve it, based on my research and experience, I think we should go with number 3. The way that I help my teams to understand this is that if they're not 1-3-1ing me, they're kind of slapping a turd in my keyboard and making it my problem, right? And you can kind of imagine that's not what I want to be dealing with, and it's not what you want to be dealing with either. Also, it's not what I should necessarily be doing to them, just coming and dumping all of this information and problem and a turd in their keyboard and making them figure out how to clean it up. So that might be too visceral for your team. I don't know. It helps my team to understand, but it certainly gets the point across. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, but my team can't solve every problem in the business. Like, it's up to me. Sure, but you probably take on too much of that responsibility right now anyway. You're probably not letting your team solve those. And so what you want to do is just say, hey, whenever you have a problem, you have a challenge, or you see an opportunity, I'd love for you to submit it in the 1-3-1 so that I can see how I can help you and how we can get there faster. To be honest, the best thing that I've got out of learning this isn't just how my team communicate to me, but how I communicate with my team and how I brief them in on things. Because now I don't have to try and solve every problem, right? And I'm not trying to figure out how to do it. Just like in Dr. Benjamin Hardy's book, and he talks about who, not how. Now I think, okay, how can I bring in the right people? How can I tell them the parameters? How can I tell them what is success to me? How can I give them a little bit of context to set them up for success, but let them solve the problem? Who, not how. And so instead of telling people, I want this, go do it this way, I say, hey, here's my 1-3-1. Here's the problem, challenge, or opportunity I'm trying to achieve. Here's 3 ideas or 2 ideas I think might work. You might go with this, but hey, now you know the picture of success. Can you please go figure it out and let me know how you go and when it's executed? Or come back to me with a 1-3-1 and then let's clear the room on it and decide what we're going to go ahead with. Okay, team, so you can start to see how this all comes together. Somebody who might be you or someone in your team, they 1-3-1. They identify a problem, a challenge, or an opportunity. And from that framework, you guys understand, okay, this is how we're going to solve it. You then set up a new task or a new project. You set the RACI for that. Everybody knows their roles within that framework and in that RACI. And now you have that one person accountable who's going to go and get it done and make sure shit gets done. And everybody on that team is going to be working in unison to clear the room on their specific tasks and the things they need to do. Mwah, chef's kiss. That is how you power up your team to get more stuff done. Trust me, it will take efficiency and effectiveness to the next level. So team, I hope you enjoyed today's training. Do you want to hear more about how I've built teams and how I lead people and manage people and get the most out of them and help them to become their bestest, most power up selves? If you have any questions, of course, let me know in the comments. I'm always jumping in. And team, if you enjoyed this video, I've got a couple more up on screen that you can watch next. Chat soon.